I want to talk about Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions for a few minutes. Just going to throw some Madden footage here in the background so you have something to look at. But they just got done with this Thursday night game against the Packers. They've beaten the Packers twice this year, both times they've played them. First time maybe wasn't all that close. Maybe the score was a little closer than the game actually felt. But this time the Packers, they went back and forth. And right at the end of the game, the Packers kicked a field goal to tie it up. And you kind of thought maybe that the Packers really needed a touchdown there just to take the lead and then force Detroit to get the ball into the end zone with just a couple minutes remaining. But the thing was, Dan Campbell went for it on 4th and inches with just over 40 seconds left, just to run out the rest of the clock so the Packers didn't get the ball. And a lot of coaches wouldn't do that. A lot of coaches would just kick the field goal, and then, let the Packers have the ball back and just try to get a stop on defense, make sure they don't tie the game. But Dan Campbell is not most coaches. He is aggressive in a lot of situations and sometimes to his detriment. But when it works out, it works out. You can criticize it when it doesn't work, but when it does work, it's good. You have to look at both sides of it. If you go for it on 4th down, you don't get it, suddenly you can't kick that field goal. You can't, at the worst, it's probably going to go into overtime, but they could complete a long pass, spike the ball, and kick a field goal, win the game, and suddenly you just lost because you wanted to run out the rest of the clock. But this Detroit team is really good. I don't think we, realize just how good they are. They've had a lot of injuries. Aiden Hutchinson's out. Damn near their whole linebacking core is out. Aleem McNeil left this game with a head injury. Not a concussion, thankfully, but some sort of a head injury. And he tried to come back in, couldn't do it. Had to leave the game once again. And so, they've had a lot of injuries, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. And they just find a way to win. They play for each other. They play together. And it's a hard football team to really hate or dislike or anything because they are playing so well. And, there's teams that they're playing that aren't having good seasons and they're just blowing them out. And then there's teams they play that are really good, and they're finding ways to win. A couple of weeks ago, when they played the Texans and Goff threw, 4 or 5 interceptions? And they still found a way to win. I just think when we get to the playoffs, maybe Philly has a chance to beat them. But, their team has their own problems. Of course, Saquon Barkley's really good. I don't know how you stop him, but maybe the pass offense for the Eagles has just a little bit to be desired. They're good, but I think the strength of that team is definitely the run game, especially with Jalen Hurts running the ball. And then you've got other teams, they could end up playing the Packers again in the playoffs. They have with this win over the Packers on Thursday Night Football, they've clinched a playoff spot. And so they're going to be in the playoffs. Likely, if they keep winning, they will have the number 1 seed, and they'll get a bye. Maybe they play the Packers again. Maybe they meet the Vikings again. It looks like 3 teams out of the NFC North are going to make the playoffs. Bears the only team that's going to get left out, but I just like to gush about the Lions for a little bit. I don't think that they're going to be an easy team to stop when we get to the playoffs. They really should have been, probably in the Super Bowl last year, except for just a couple of mistakes they made, a couple of plays that didn't bounce their way. And, they maybe could have beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs. I'm not saying they would have, but they would have definitely had a chance to. And, there's some other teams, some teams in the AFC that are definitely tough. But the NFC is a little bit top-heavy. You got Detroit, you got Philly, and then, there's some teams that are obviously just not quite there yet. They're having okay seasons, like the Commanders and maybe the Vikings. Packers are kind of there, but they've, just not quite figured things out. I know they've only lost, one game outside of Detroit twice, but, Jordan Love was injured part of the year, and then he just hasn't looked the same as he did last year, maybe. He's been good, but just not, Super Bowl level, I would say. But Detroit, once again, they're going to be tough to stop. And Dan Campbell is a big part of that. He has turned this team around, done what no other coach in Detroit has done in the Super Bowl era, and that's just turned this team around. He started, had a bad season, had another season, looked like he was going to have another bad year, turned that season around, and, then 2023 was better, and this year, they are top of the NFC. Any team would love to have Ben Johnson as their new head coach, and he's decided to stick in Detroit. And, that says a lot about him wanting to be here and wanting to be here for this team. There's not a whole lot of games left until we get to the playoffs. Detroit's 12-1 and has only lost to Tampa Bay early in the season. I think if the Detroit Lions don't win the Super Bowl, it's because they've, shot themselves in the foot and just, had self-inflicted wounds in a game that they should have won, because with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they have such a strong running game. And then Jared Goff, occasionally he makes a mistake. He'll throw some interceptions. But he throws the ball so well. He always makes, for the most part, makes good decisions. And they've got great receivers. Tim Patrick's been great. But, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams have been good. You got Sam Laporta out there, and then throwing the ball to the backs as well. But this team, I don't want to just talk about how good I think they are, but they've got some weaknesses, and that's probably a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. They've been, leading the league in pass interference penalties. They got to cut that down, but they, when they need to get a stop, they find a way. Right at the end of the game, when the Packers were looking to go up, score a touchdown, take the lead, they forced a field goal. That probably the difference in the game right there. The defense has had a lot of injuries. You definitely miss Aiden Hutchinson, especially when it's going to come playoff time. But I do think that this team, definitely has a chance to do something that the Lions have never done before, and that's possibly win a Super Bowl. And, even just making it to the Super Bowl would be huge for the Lions. The Lions have never been in the Super Bowl. One of only a handful of teams that, can say that. But I do think that if they don't make it, it's going to be, a disappointing season for them. Just because of how well they've played. And the culture in Detroit, it's just so, team-focused. And I do think, could have, maybe a surprising year for some people. But anyone who's watched this Detroit team play knows how good they are. I think that's all I want to say for now. If you've made it this far, you can like the video, subscribe. I post a lot of shorts. Posted one earlier of the, I usually just have some sort of a clip and then I'll voice it over with what I want to say. But if you want to check that out, they're on the channel. Subscribe. We just hit 1,500 subscribers this last month, so that's really exciting. But yeah, that'll do it for now. I will see you in the next one. Have a good day.